I just wanted to share, my older brother's here actually at my condo with me. He just finished the Landmark Forum.
Ah,
I went with him to his last session last night, and then Tuesday night is I kind of like the official culminating. So I just wanted to presence that I'm kind of excited to have another family member who's done it, or somebody who can you can relate. And I mean, there's a certain lingo to the forum, to Landmark,
yeah,
and that's all well and good, the actual lingo, but it's more so like the sharing that goes back and forth. So we'll see what kind of opens up for him. We'll see what opens up for me in talking with him about what opens up for him. But that was kind of been a special weekend. So
yeah, I remember, especially Sunday night. I find Tuesdays to be a total drag, honestly.
mhm.
Tuesday's such a freaking drag. But, I don't know why they call it the culmination. I call it the sales time for Landmark. It has nothing to do with the individual and
Yeah.
everything to do with how many people can we co-opt into the next thingy. Whether it's the advance, which, by the way, I totally disagree that anyone should ever, ever, ever do before 1 year is up from
Mhm.
forum, in terms of what we know about rewiring, repatterning,
Mhm.
opening up, taking all that weekend information, really like allowing it to integrate and internalize, and then go into the advanced. So I recommend 100% of the time never to take the advanced. So, but that's all Tuesday's about. It's about a sales
Mhm.
pitch to go to the next level and double your amount of money that you're going to give them. So I think Sunday is the day of culmination. To me, that is the day of
Yeah.
culmination. That's the pièce de résistance, and everything else is down from there.
Mhm.
So just my perspective,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
I'll still go with him on Tuesday night. We'll see if he wants to invite anybody else. But yeah, I agree. I've been to some Tuesday nights, and yeah,
yeah,
Sunday's
yeah. No, I mean
definitely the more
definitely,
special night.
definitely, go, but really cut through to the truth. It's a
Yeah.
hype. It's
Mhm.
a lie. It's an absolute lie.
Mhm.
Tuesday is a hype.
Mhm.
It's a con job to bring people in and yourself so that they can get more customers. And if we don't call it what it is and we live it as if it's something else, it's bullshit. And so that's just
Mhm.
and there's no moving that around, or there's no denying that. When you
Mhm.
look at how much time is invested in the individual and their next stage of development, and how much is invested into sales pitch for the advanced and for, selling
Mhm.
other people.
Mhm.
um, I just think the more that Landmark learns and hears that reflection, and the more they take ownership of what they're doing there, the more authentic that experience will be. And I think more people will open their heart to
Mhm.
bringing more people in and actually having it be something meaningful.
Mhm.
But call it what it is and don't call it anything other than that.
Yeah. We were talking a lot, actually, in my group of friends who've done Landmark. We were talking, I was recounting to them what you were saying about how, like how many, over 100 people that you've referred to the forum, without ever taking them to a like a Landmark intro session or
Yeah,
something. And so, yeah, I was talking to my brother about that now that he's also hearing the message over and over again of, yeah, bring people, invite people
yeah,
in, help people transform,
yeah.
and just giving him a dose of countering Landmark guilt, if you will.
Well, what you said
Well,
last
so
night,
so let me.
yeah.
So does everyone know Landmark? Because I feel like we're talking and they're
Oh,
not.
sorry. Oh,
Okay. So, yeah, you want to just give it a quick blurb?
sure. So Landmark's the like Landmark worldwide. They have centers all over the world in most major cities all over the world, and it's a personal and professional growth center, if you will. And the hallmark program of theirs is called the Landmark Forum. It's a 3-day intensive weekend that kind of cracks you open and peels off layers of an onion and helps you put the past, kind of see how experiences and things in the past are influencing your choices now and into the future. And so the idea is that it's like, okay, the forum cracks you open, puts the past in the past, and then you're standing kind of with an open clearing for the future and what do you want to create. And then from there, that's their foundational program. From there, they have all the different classes and series and advanced programs and things like that. And so I think the forum is really powerful. I've just come out of when I did my first fly on the wall. I had just come out of that weekend, and so I was in a much more receptive place to even receiving what you all are doing, and having been in that environment of publicly sharing and seeing how much you can learn about yourself from somebody else sharing. And I've subsequently taken another class, and I've signed up for another one, just because I like the presence. I like kind of conversing like this. But yeah, they get a bad rap because they do kind of sales pitch you pretty hard. And so one thing that I think, Ronit, I might have talked to you about this, is that for any kind of therapeutic experience or personal growth experience, I'm very wary of ever becoming dependent on something or addicted to something, because if it's really empowering you, and then I shouldn't have to need that. It can be nice to have that be a added benefit to my life, but I don't want to have to need that. And so I've been very wary or conscious of, am I doing things because the landmark community said, oh, that's great, so I'm just seeking validation now, not from the external world, but from this other world of landmark or something? Or am I doing this because this really jives with what I want, and such? So very brief synopsis of landmark, but they're all over the world.
Yeah. So I recommend the forum for everybody. I think the forum is amazing. And beyond that, I think, so they crack you open, but that's all they do. Now you have to walk through, and you have to create a community and environment that's going to reinforce that. The seminars do it to some degree, but I don't think that they do it in any meaningful way, because so many of the people get co-opted by the system. And so it becomes a little kind of mini group that reinforces its own schmutz. And it has a lot of schmutz, and it reinforces it. So you just go from one schmutz to another schmutz. Frankly, at the end of the day, unless you're really an independent thinker and are really kind of outside of the box, and if you are, you can gain a lot of benefit. I actually did it for 5 years. So I did all those seminars, but I never ever got I never engaged in Landmark. I came in for the classes and I walked out. Never ever followed any of the rules and regulations, like I did with college, or I did with everything else, or religion. I go in, I take what's relevant to me, and I pull out. I do not belong to a system. So yeah, that's the synopsis of that. Recommend it highly for that breakthrough. That initial Daniel did the breakthrough. He went through Landmark. David went through Landmark. Everyone in my life has gone through Landmark, I believe, in its first 3 days a lot. That's all I believe in. Don't believe in the rest of it unless you're really core centered. If you're not core centered, stay away from it because they are a machine that wants money. That's the number one objective. They say otherwise, but they're false. So, and if you can withstand that, really, you can get the juice and be independent. So cool. Congratulations to him. And hopefully you will be able to, kind of guide him through, the next, whatever it is now, 12 weeks. What is it? 10 weeks? 10 weeks, yeah. Of once a week reinforcement. And I will say they have a seminar later on if you take it, which is, I don't know if they still have it, and I don't even remember the name of the seminar, but the definition of the seminar was create a life that you cannot imagine. And I took that seminar. I think I finished that seminar a few months before I met Daniel. And that opened the door for me for a life that I couldn't imagine, because Daniel became like this crazy vehicle in my life. And shortly after that, the creator, at least in mind, came into my life. And I dropped being a psychiatrist, crisis and trauma worker, and became, the founder of organization in a completely different world. And so I actually created a life that I could not imagine. So that's how powerfully I entered those seminars and sponged, staying very focused to my truth, my inner guide, and not listening to anything that they're saying, so that I can really be a clear channel for the messaging from me And so blew wide open, seriously, like it was amazing. So just the potential is there. The tools are there. It's how we show up for those tools. Yeah. It's how we show up for those tools. With regard to need, I just wanted to say, and actually maybe let's go there. I like that theme. The fear of needing, where you lose yourself, to appreciating needing, where there's interdependence, and without each other, we cannot be. So let's make that distinction. We human beings need each other. We need each other. And frankly, we're interdependent every second of the day, whether it's the cloth you're wearing, the food you're eating, the milk in the refrigerator, the car you're driving. It is all interdependent. The roads you're riding, we completely need each other. To believe for 1 second that we're not interdependent and completely dependent on each other for our existence and our breath right now is to be short-sighted and, egocentric. So we need each other. So your fear of not needing each other needs to be qualified. So we need each other in order to operate in the world, in order to be who we are. And we need each other in order to discover our inner truth. So we cannot do it alone. We actually are completely interdependent. And there's no way that we can create self-awareness if it's not in relation to another. There is no self-awareness without the other. You don't know if you're stingy or generous if you don't have a relationship with another. You don't know if you're funny if you don't have a relationship with another. You don't know anything about yourself if you don't have a relationship with another. So understanding, no, we are needy and that ego is afraid of dependency in what? In what? Let's open that one up. Let's open up. I don't need. Or I'm afraid of being too needy. And let's dissect that. Because that's a huge fear for us.
Well, since I brought it back up, I'll jump back in. I think the fear is unconsciously needing that landmark curriculum, that engagement, versus a really strong sense of, okay, what am I needing right now? Oh, I really need this. I'm really needing this influence right now. I'm really needing this, and having it be more mindful rather than it be a fear of, I can't do this without that, or I think.
So I think we need to define that.
Okay.
Let's define that, because I think that's an important thing to define. So what is that?
That.
I fear that I really need that. Or I fear that I really need the landmark course. Let's tease that out.
I guess it's a fear that whatever is being taught or whatever this personal growth experience I'm going on and continually hope to be on, I guess it's more a fear that none of that is really being internalized, and instead, so it's never really leading to closer to the core, closer to empowerment, closer to mindful understanding of myself, and instead it's an illusion. Maybe that's it. Is that?
I'm going to pause here. I don't think that's the fear, right?
Okay.
So, but I'm afraid that their word or their teachings will what?
Usurp my own.
Usurp
my own core.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I'm afraid that they will co-opt me, that I will I will lose myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at that, like I'm afraid that if I continue to, you know, connect there, I will lose myself. And by the way, it's the number one fear. By the way, it's the fear of in intimacy.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, that's like not just landmark. That's
Yeah, it's the number one fear human beings have. It's the ego's fear of annihilation.
huh.
It's the ego's fear of agency, of self-direction, of its creative juices. It's the fear that it will lose that if it comes in contact with either a lover, an organization, a religion, a political party, whatever it is, there is a fear that one will lose themselves. So where is the real issue? Is it that thing?
No.
It's not that thing.
It's that thing that just triggers whatever.
Exactly. That thing, that person, that organization, situation triggers what exists within you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're afraid that now there'll be obligations, that now there'll be responsibilities, that now you'll have to conform, that now you'll have to be taking, care of what their priorities are. Now you'll have to give up part of yourself. What's true?
Well, the curiosity of what opens up if you give up part of yourself. For who do you get to become? For giving up part of yourself to then have that be reflected back to you. Is the fear of that also, is the fear of the unknown of that, but also because I've noticed in myself like a fear of letting you guys down, or like because when you started going on the responsibilities or the you what are the rationale or the goals there, and I'm like, am I going to let them down? Like, is this intense? Am I going to be able to give enough, or am I going to be able to play by those rules? Like, so I've noticed it even in a, just when you're going off there, I was totally not even thinking of landmark. Now I was just thinking of like, yeah, what opens up then for yourself if you lose if you give a piece of yourself.
Be careful, because it's really, so there are two things you're saying there. One is, what am I closing myself off with regard to possibility of contribution that I don't know exist? So what am I preventing receiving because I'm shutting that down because of fear of projection that I'm going to lose a part of myself? But what am I gaining is a part of myself in that experience that I've never had before. So the fear is that there's going to be a loss of something. The reality is that actually there's an expansion of something. So watch the language. You still think that you will gain something by losing a part of yourself. But it's actually not gaining something by losing a part of yourself. It's gaining something by opening a part of yourself to receive it. So that's one piece. Are you following? Yeah, like your mindset was like, oh, maybe it's okay to lose a part of myself. But is it a loss of a part of myself? Or is it a gain of a part of myself? Am I discovering a new part of myself that I never saw? And am I losing anything that is meaningful to me other than a fear? that I don't really understand because I've never tested.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one piece, and an important piece. But it's not the most important piece. And the most important piece is, can I lose a part of my true self?
Mm-mm. Anything that would be lost would be like a tangential piece that is not serving me anyways, if you think about it rationally.
So the fear of losing a part of myself, or compromising myself, or selling out, or doing something I don't want to do in the service of the community, or in the service of the, the masses, the power of the fear of that is actually what?
My ego resisting me from wanting to, yeah, it's a resistance to really getting in touch here, I think.
So let's break it really slowly, because it's really a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
My fear of losing myself, or compromising myself, or selling out, or being distracted by by others' values and not following my own, that's the whole thing. That mirror is showing me that I'm not really anchored in who I am.
Mm-hmm. Because if I was, then that wouldn't be a fear.
Exactly. So it's showing you
Mm.
that you're still not anchored in who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two pieces here. Yeah, it's really important to see both. So one is that fear shuts me down, or shuts me out of possibly exploring other ways of receiving and expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. And the more important one, and that's the goodie, the more important one is that fear is showing me there's a part of me that doesn't trust myself to hold on to my truth, my values, and my core, no matter what the outside world says.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, that lives inside of me. I'd like to learn more about that one.
Mm-hmm. Feels like being on like gelatinous footing or something, like you're standing on jello and it kind of wobbles, which is, that makes sense why there's this pullback or fear, the landmark community, pullback or fear, and like some relationships. It's like, oh yeah, because it's precarious footing in some areas.
Yeah. So that's a really powerful place to land, really, to be able to see that there's something within me against my value, against my truth, against my priorities. That's an interesting little insight.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go there and explore what that's about.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely there.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then with that then comes judgment of, what do I think of this community? What do I think of this community? What do I think of this community? Do I want to trust that community? Do I want to trust this person? Do I want to trust this situation? Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to the conversation that we had in a very small way, but nonetheless worth kind of highlighting. Well, we had the conversation in Turks and Caicos with the born again Christians, where they. I didn't talk about it here, but I talked about it on Thursdays, where the last morning of our Turkey, when we were having breakfast, there were two guys sitting next to us, and they were born again Christians. It turned out. And it turned out that way when they, were sharing about our work. They were pilots. Both of them were pilots, and they were flying a private plane for a very wealthy person. And and then when I talked about my work with, couples therapy and individual therapy, and one of them immediately goes, yeah, but you only do heterosexual couples, right? And I said, no, I do, I do any couple, like any couple, gays, but yeah. And of course they shrunk, and contracted violently, and that's a sin, and that's not God, and there was this moment of like combativeness that came in, right? Like the separateness that came in, this divisiveness, and then it seemed about, it was, what was the other issue that they brought up? I forgot what it was, but not like abortion.
No, it's creation.
Oh, creationism. Yeah, right. So of course they're against evolution, and creationism is the only. So they came in with, and I just decided to open up, right? So here is a group, like here is a community, those two are a community, right? And they, like, everything they said was divisive and against, right? And what I did is I went toward and inquired. So I didn't feel like they can co-opt me. I didn't feel like they can, but I also didn't feel like they were completely out of their minds and that I have nothing in common with them. And we went in, and I won't go into all the details, but we ended up spending an hour, and we ended up falling madly in love with each other. And we learned so much from them. We learned that actually we've learned that they've got one-on-ones that they do in their community. They do it with Jesus and God and all of that. Yeah, so they were like 95% of them was us. And that 5% around creationism, and we just decided not to address. And we lived here in the 95%.
So let me just give you an example specifically, just dealing with anger. They had this scripture piece, and they said we actually practice this with each other. And it was basically about not allowing the anger to hijack your actions, but instead to pause and to reflect on the bigger picture until you can see that. It was that literally us.
They were us.
They had some like Christian language in there, but it was effectively what they said.
So where I'm making the connection is that no community can co-opt you. No community can make you do something you don't want to do. And no community is wrong, all wrong. They've got their, to be able to enter like what appeared in the beginning to be like 99% against, just in the energy and the venom that came, in terms of like, oh my God, the wrath of God is going to come upon you because you're so wrong, and this thing to like shifting within an hour into madly in love, literally, with each other. And we learning so much from them, and they learning from us, right? So wherever we enter, if we have a core and we have a spaciousness for other people to have theirs, love triumphs, and you can learn. Yeah, so it's a certain kind of confidence in who I am and confidence in who people are, which is basically good. And then it's about like inquiry and curiosity. Where is the alignment? Where do we begin? Where do we end? Where is the overlap? Where, whatever, from a place of discovery, both in yourself and in each other. So entering any situation, any community that has some resonance and interest, but there's a confidence of who I am. And that confidence allows me to go anywhere without any fear. With just open heart. It's when I am not confident, right? It's when I am on, kind of like thin ground, that I'm afraid that somebody can push me over or have me sell out because of peer pressure or whatever.
It reminds me of my friend. He recently told me, she was like, yeah, every now and then, she's like, I can see the judgment eye going. And I'd be like, oh yeah. I was like, call me out on it. But it's also like, that's rooted in fear, right? And I couldn't quite articulate, like, go one step deeper than that. All I knew was like, yeah, that's rooted in fear. Because there is no, like, okay, you floss your teeth every day, or you don't floss your teeth every day. I'm looking at you with judgment. Like, you don't floss your teeth every day. Like, literally take a small thing like this. But but really that's rooted in fear. And then this is helping to take that, okay, what's one step further behind the fear is that, this is not strong enough to be up against that differing opinion or environment or,
You're letting the veil over your eyes.
I was noticing that, Dana.
That's right. You're letting the illusion, we need to remove the veils so that we can see the truth and be grounded in our core essence. And of course, the discovery is our core essence. So the work is, of course, always here, like, what am I afraid of and what's true for me? And is it true for me? Is it true? Am I grounded in that truth? Does that resonate in my highest, deepest being? Or is that something I just learned and I'm, doing?
Rather than kind of this incredible analysis and judgment of the whole surrounding me, so that I'm going to figure out how to make that as healthy of a surrounding and safe a surrounding as possible. To then when you stand on Jello, there aren't going to be too many people rocking that Jello boat. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so really simmering on this. I'm standing on Jello.
Yeah. Well,
those Jello molds. Sometimes in other areas, not in all situations, no. But in some situations, the majority of the time, yeah.
Yeah. So it's good to know, right? It's good to be with what is, because now, okay, how do I want to be with that? But then you focus the energy in where it belongs, and not on the community, not on Landmark, not on your friend, but really here, like, hey, what's up with that? What's that trigger all about? What lives inside of me that needs attention, that I need to refocus so that I can open that space and discover what lives within me, and then I can own it. And if it's true, great. And if it's not, it'll be released. It will be released if it's not true. So we need each other. When the I in the we is solid core, there is no fear that the I will get swallowed by the we. If anything, the I becomes more refined in response to the we, and therefore can serve better. Because the we needs the individual I's, because every individual I is a work of art. And together, not conforming, but having a common vision and common goal, together, we can actually bring about that vision so much greater and more imaginative than we could ever think about. So, yeah. So the stronger the I, the stronger the we. The stronger the we at the expense of the I, the weaker the we.
Well, that we just becomes somebody else's I, somebody of domination.
Yeah, there's no more I. There's no more. There's nothing really. It's all illusory. So this work is about strengthening the I. And then is about strengthening the I in the we. So this work is strengthening the I, because we're really kind of like all doing the work in the I while we're hearing ourselves and each other. Of course, we support each other, but there is no common, like living together, moving towards a common goal. It's all our individual goals to expand the individual. Came together to go, okay, now let's take it to the next level. Let's now bring in our blessings and our needs. And let's see now how we can refine the I so that we can strengthen the we. Because it's only in relationship that we can refine the I. We can't refine it any other way.
It's really helpful. very, very hopeful visual of me standing on, or am I standing on Jello? Sometimes when I'm having these thoughts about, I don't agree with that thing, or I, you know, like, oh no, like thanks landmark, but no thanks, or oh thank you advice from my family, but no thanks, or you know, it's just a good introspective question: is am I standing on Jello, or am I standing firm planted when I'm saying thank you or no thank you? Because is it really kind of a fear or judgment? Or I'm trying not to have judgment of like,
beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I'm on Jello, I should be on hard ground. It's just kind of like, let me just notice, am I jiggling on like the old 90s commercials of Jello, or am I?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Planted.
Another way we say it is, what's informing this response or reaction right now? My ego self or my higher self, right? Mm-hmm. You know, my core self or my ego self, my fearful self. Yeah, beautiful.
Interesting. Thank you.
Good work. Nice. Okay. Let's open it up.
I love your Jello imagery there, Anna. What kept coming up for me was how I'm always responding from what I think I want, which would be in conflict with what is dominating me, or whatever, similar thing. And when I pause and evaluate the Jello in that, a lot of the times what actually happens is I look at what I thought I wanted, or what I was arguing for, or what I was stating as my truth, and I'm able to see the difference between that and what I truly want. So I get into this like conflictual mode because a different perspective comes in, or what appears to be an obligation. The obligation is a good one because you brought that up. So I joined Landmark, let's say, because why did I join Landmark? Or why did you join Landmark? What were those goals? Now the community starts asking you to do some things or to participate in certain ways. And you're like, well, that's confining my freedom. And in the case of Landmark, some of those things might, and some of those things might not. But some of them might be inviting you to operate in a way that will take you in the direction of your original goal, but you'll still resist it because it's an outside request. This is what I find myself doing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do something else this week. Well, why? Because I have this other thing to do. Okay, but what is my goal? Is my goal to be isolated and just do things that I come up with myself? Or is my goal to strengthen my interdependence on the court in real action? And so then I find myself on the Jello of fighting against my actual intention because I had a different idea or conceptualization of that. Or even simply in conversation. You know, I said last night to you how stimulating our conversations always are. And that's a little tongue in cheek because a lot of our conversation I find myself reacting to, like I will say a thing like the sky is blue. And she will like, yeah, but you know, is it really blue? Like she'll have this other analysis or perspective on it that like, I just want to say the sky is blue and I want to go get ice cream, but no, we have to stop and talk about the color of the sky. And I find my system responds in conflict, but that's actually really stimulating because what comes out of that conversation is a more precise understanding of the issue I was stating or the fact I was stating in passing, which is never about the sky. It's always about something that actually has a lot more meat to it. But I find myself glossing over it. And my intention is to be closer to my own truth and being able to really perceive more of it and not gloss over things because that trips me up all the time. And yet it's always annoying to my ego to have this pause. Let's examine what that statement's coming from. And so I just really got to see how stimulating it is and how it's actually something that I'm blessed by. Even though the next time it happens, I'm still going to have that reaction of, oh, you know, can't have a freaking conversation. So that's the Jello. For me, it's inside. Which part of me is interacting, and what are my actual goals?
Mm-hmm. It's very helpful. Yeah. A pausing and reframing on like, what's my ultimate goal, vision?
Core self.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'd like to say, well, thank you, Anna, for boldly bringing this subject up, which, well, at least from my perspective, maybe from yours as well, that triggers a lot of uncomfortable feelings, and I say that now as a compliment, so I'm grateful for that. So who knows, maybe I'm gonna go next or not. But one thing that is a question that came up for me while I was, constantly coming up with questions, and you came up in your duet with Ronit with answers to these questions, and one of them remained somehow unresolved for me, which is the question between when is it about inner confidence that I might do I fear or resist interacting with somebody because I don't trust that I have, my own stability or connection to my own inner core? Or is there some kind, is there some kind of intuitive feeling that a relationship or an interaction somehow violates my boundaries, which is again the sensitivity of inner, like it's basically the same question, but from a different view. Am I in touch with my own inner self? Do I know who I am, what my values are, what my goals are, etc., etc.? And I'm somehow unclear about the whole thing, but you kind of brought it up for me, so I'm very grateful for that. So, yeah, I don't know to what extent it might be relevant as a reflection. I hope it is somehow. So yeah, thank you.
For me, I'm like receiving that question like, oh, if I'm standing on Jello, then I don't know if it's like when I'm standing on Jello, I don't know if are you violating my boundaries or is this really what I really want? And if I know, and I feel like it's dead clear, if I know in my core, if I know in my core that this is not what I want, you make me uncomfortable. Like when I talked about fear before, and I was recounting that fear story about the tan van, and I was getting kidnapped to my friend yesterday, actually. And I was like, oh, I knew in my core, like, there was no sense of wavering, like, this is not safe. But I guess that's my only reflection to that sense of wavering, Wolfgang, of is it, I don't know. I guess for me, if I'm standing on Jello, then I'm not sure if I'm really confident in my stance.
There's no question. There's clarity. There's no fear of, threat. There's no fear of threat when there's clarity. Because the clarity immediately goes, nope. Nope. With love. But no, it's not fearful. Doesn't resonate. Not my truth. You're not stepping over my boundaries. I know where my boundary is and I'm not. There's no threat. Yeah? There's only threat when you're on Jello. Yeah? Because you don't know what your boundaries are. You don't know what your core truth is. So that's exactly how you know where you have to go in there and search, right?
This is all very interesting for me. I woke up this morning and I had my first cry in a while. And it relates to some of these issues because I was feeling this sense of desire to protect the person I love, but I can't because I'm not there. And the fears around her radicalness in her community, and my imagination going to worst case scenarios from why I'm not hearing from her, and my inner child becoming like a victim for not feeling like I can step up and be the protector that I need to be. And then yeah, how needy am I in this? Like I need to, be together. I need to fulfill that desire to protect. And what was nice is after going through all this, I heard back from her, and all those fears were put to rest, and all my emotions were honored in that process. So it helped me kind of get clarity in terms of like, okay, this is who I am in this situation. Yes, I feel powerless. And what do I need to do to begin to feel powerful, so that I can step up on the level that I'm inspired to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just shift from the words, what do I need to do, to who do I need to be? How do I need to show up, right? So within me, what do I need to access within me so that I can, step up into another perspective or a bigger picture?
Yeah, exactly. Wait,
So it comes back to boundaries again. This is a different kind, right? Where someone you care about, or even the community you care about, there is something going on, and there's a part of you that really wants to intervene, but you can't. You can't intervene because of distance or because the situation is out of your control. There's nothing you can do about that, really. And you're just in the presence of fear of what's going to happen, and fear of, watching people you care about suffer or whatever. It's another boundary of where I begin and end. My core truth is, I need to know, it's the serenity prayer. I need to know, when I can intervene, when I can't intervene, and, the difference between those two. So, right, that's the serenity prayer. So that's another part of that core. It's the outer circle of that core. Where do I begin and end? Where does somebody else begin and end? And what control do I have over situations?
Yeah. Trust and surrendered. I mean, to those things, it's really amazing to let yourself lose control, but then still want to be bigger.
Yeah, it's letting your ego lose control. It's actually, you are gaining serenity. So you're in a way gaining control because you realize the truth of the matter. So you lose illusory control. You never had control to begin with.
Yeah. So
you lose the illusory control as you open into that. Surrender allows for you to be in the peace of, oh, this is not an area I have control over. I can be in peace with that.
Yeah.
So what are you feeling right now? You just witnessed a group of individuals sharing their innermost thoughts and feelings with each other without any fear of judgment or criticism. Imagine if all of us in the world would be able to be ourselves, share ourselves authentically without fear of being judged or criticized. Imagine if you, in your family, with your friends, your colleagues, were able to be fully yourself. We would really discover how amazing we are. I invite you to share this with anyone that you feel would benefit from this experience. Let us all be love together.